Tim Miller, your thoughts on this legislation?
Well, I agree with Senator McCaskill there. That would have been an insult, calling you Senator Murkowski there for a second. I agree that certainly the swing district Republicans in the House are going to regret this, as evidenced by the fact that Tom Tillis, who is going to have the toughest race of all the Republicans in the Senate, besides maybe Susan Collins, essentially quit over not wanting to vote for this bill. So, and the bill is a big-time political loser. But the policy ramifications are very severe. And the Senator Murkowski's explanation for voting for this bill is something that it's hard for me to think of other precedents for this, like before this time, where, you would have a senator, it's not just her, it's also Josh Hawley and Ron Johnson, who are out there saying essentially that this is a bad bill. Like Hawley's rationale for voting for it is that the Medicaid cuts won't go into place ever, and that he'll fight them in the future. Ron Johnson hasn't even given a rationale for why the bill that he was railing against he's now voted for. Murkowski said in an interview afterwards that she knows this is going to cause pain to people in other states, and it's not as if Alaska's getting a great deal here. They're just getting a carve out on some of the SNAP reimbursement.
In a deliciously disastrous turn of events for Donald Trump, two of his former biggest supporters have now become some of his biggest adversaries. Of course, Elon Musk is promising primaries of Republicans who vote for Donald Trump's agenda, while Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene just made an announcement that could end Donald Trump's budget forever on Steve Bannon's show. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, I want to start with what the public perception around Donald Trump's agenda is right now. That explains why Republicans are so scared and Donald Trump is panicking. And we got that from our friends at MSNBC right here.
Polling, multiple warnings of an electoral wipeout, and a primary threat from the world's richest man. Well, none of that deterred Senate Republicans from passing Donald Trump's mega bill. In the end, the Senate voted 50-50 to pass the bill. J.D. Vance breaking the tie, 3 Republican senators voting no, and now the bill heads back to the House, where Republicans on both ends of the spectrum have major issues with it. Now, a reminder, the bill guts Medicaid to the tune of $1 trillion, kicks 11.8 million people off their health insurance. Also, the tax cuts can be extended for some of the richest Americans. Not to mention, it turbocharges funding for Trump's mass deportations. It also threatens the fiscal future of this country. The New York Times reporting that the deficits that this bill generates, quote, could begin a seismic shift in the nation's fiscal trajectory and raise the risk of a debt crisis. Those are just some of the reasons both the far-right House Freedom Caucus and moderate blue state Republicans have reservations about the bill, which, by the way, no longer has the Trump branding of the, quote, one big, beautiful bill. Democrats managed to strike that name out during votes this morning. There's also the polling on the legislation. As we reported yesterday, just 29% support the bill in one poll. Even a poll from Donald Trump's favorite network, Fox News, puts approval at 38%. Also puts Republicans between a rock and a hard place between Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
This is an incredibly unpopular piece of legislation. I think this is the most unpopular idea, plain period, and a sentence that Donald Trump has ever put forward in his entire political career, which is pretty crazy. Like, that is a low bar of how much people can possibly hate something. And it is our job right now to make sure Republicans know all of the blame will fall on them, that this is political poison. And that is what Jamie Raskin did, and what contributed to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. But first, let's take a listen to Congressman Raskin.
My question to start for you, and you heard Congressman McGovern there, are you confident that Democrats can convince Americans that the impacts of this bill are Republicans' fault? That is a messaging challenge.
Well, look, it's a total party line vote. I accept that they can't even hang on to all the Republicans. So you've got Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina, who's essentially surrendering his political career because he can't go along with throwing hundreds of thousands of people in his state off of their health care plan. I mean, you've got Lisa Murkowski, who basically said the only way I'll vote for it is if you cut Alaska out and they deal her a special exemption from the effects of the bill. So it is a horrific bill that is targeted at taking health care away from 16 or 17 million Americans, 14 million in Medicaid and millions more in the Affordable Care Act and in Medicare in different ways. And millions of people will be thrown off of the SNAP program and nutrition. So there's nothing to recommend this bill. I can't understand why anybody would vote for it. Elon Musk.
This is a party line vote, and Jamie Raskin put it perfectly. Republicans are wavering right now because they understand they will own this. In a previous video, we just talked about how Lindsey Graham is now claiming that, oh, I didn't realize this was in the budget or that amendment had been added. I didn't even know. That's not true, Lindsey. Chuck Schumer made sure that they read out the bill in its entirety. You can't run away. You can't claim that this was, rammed through, which it was, by the way, and use it as an excuse to say that, well, I have no responsibility now. But clearly, the Republicans in the Senate who already voted for it want to do that. And the Republicans in the House, they might not want to touch it. And that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said right here.
Medicaid away from American citizens and maybe still paying for illegal aliens. Is the House going to rubber stamp this? Is it going to be like a 24-hour turnaround, ma'am?
I cannot imagine. No, I can't imagine they have the votes. There's no way that Johnson has the votes in the House for this. We're supposed to be back Wednesday morning to start voting at 9 a.m. I think that is not realistic. I just don't see how that's possible. So this is, I think it's far from over. It is really a dire situation. We're on a time clock that's been really set on us, so we have a lot of pressure. And then also given the fact that there's 435 members of Congress, and it's hard for us to get to an agreement on anything. So this whole thing is, I don't know what to call it. It's a show. And I'm sorry for saying that. I know we're not supposed to say that on the air, but that's truly what it is.
Marjorie Taylor Greene going on record saying, I don't see how this passes the House. If that's not a huge blow to Donald Trump, I don't know what is. And at the same time, Marjorie Taylor Greene is warning that the wearing sides of the Republican Party and the House are going to be at odds with each other. We saw an example of that. Just minutes later, Ralph Norman in the House during a committee hearing just blatantly said it. He's not voting for the bill.
And all I would say is that the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence would be astounded that we're sitting here talking about something that we hadn't read fully. We hadn't got a copy of it. Now, Mr. Governor, I do agree with you on that, the fact that we should have it in hand. I think the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence would be astounded that we're adding debt to our children and grandchildren who are defenseless. Debt is a curse. And Jody, you were right. We got to reverse the curse. And what the Senate did is unconscionable. What they did to our bill was unconscionable. And that's why, I will be, unlike my Democrat colleagues, they will not support anything their new leader in New York, Mandani, government-run stores, government-run gas stations, government-run apartments. I wonder how many U-Haulets are now leaving New York, and the socialist theory just does not work. So I'm against this because of what the Senate did. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote against it on the floor until we get it right. And the fact is, the good news, we're going to pass the tax cuts. The tax cuts don't expire until the December of this year. We're going to pass the tax cuts. And I think we're going to go back to the drawing table. It is my hope we'll go back to the drawing table and get very close to what we sent the Senate, because instead of each individual senator getting a goodie bag and sacrificing the health of this country is an abomination to, again, the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence.
The number of Republicans in the House that Donald Trump has to pass this bill is marginal. This is such a very, this is a tightrope walk on a razor blade for Donald Trump. He cannot be losing support left and right. And that's happening right now because, again, it is the most unpopular thing he has ever put forth. The work must be continued to be done to make sure that people know that the more they hear about this bill, the more unpopular that it gets. It's why we need Democrats very clearly communicating the damage that will be done by it. Someone who did a great job with that was Senator Chris Murphy right here.
I am shaking with fury over what just happened. That's the most monstrous piece of legislation I've ever voted on in my time in Congress. What do those Republican senators go back and tell their constituents that they did? In the final speech, the only thing they mentioned was the money for the border. But what more can they do? They've already militarized the border. They've already created an immigration police state. They didn't mention anything about the fact this bill kicks 17 million people off of their health care. There are going to be thousands of people who die in this country because they lose their access to health care. There'll be tens of thousands of other lives that are needlessly destroyed. This is the biggest cut in child nutrition in the history of the country, I think. There are going to be moms and dads who literally watch their children go hungry. And why? Because they wanted to pad the pockets of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago friends. That's the only reason that they are throwing people off of health care, that they are rendering little children hungry so that some billionaire can get an extra $200,000 tax cut. It's just repulsive what they did. Now, it hasn't passed the House. There is a small but not insignificant chance that we can stop this bill before it gets to the president's desk. So let's get to work. Let's keep fighting. Let's not give up. Even if it does pass the House, then we have to tell the world what they did. We have to make sure that every single senator, every single congressman who voted for this from a swing state or a swing district never sets foot in this building again. This is a moral abomination, what they just did. And for what? For what? Just to make the lives of the rich and famous a little bit easier? So we'll do our work. I'm not giving up. I'm going to do everything I can to stop this bill from passing the House of Representatives. And it has real issues as it heads to the House of Representatives. But if it does become law, we're going to make sure these people pay politically for what they did.
No matter what side of the political aisle you are on, except for raging lunatic cultists who will always salute and say, "Thank you, dear leader." Yeah, you don't like this bill. If you're a fiscal conservative, if we have any of those left in America, I don't really think we do, but you hate this bill. If you're a person with empathy, I'm speaking to you right now. Yeah. You also hate this bill if you don't want to see millions of people lose their health care for arbitrary reasons because Donald Trump wants them to fill out more paperwork so they can rip away their health care that they deserve. That is a human right. That's what this bill does. Who likes this? Who is this for? I actually know one person or a group of people that it's for. There's a provision that there can be no regulation of AI for 5 years by any state in this bill. So it's for the billionaires trying to become trillionaires off the back of unregulated AI that's coming for your job. That's who it's for. Huge win for us. But again, if you're a Republican, you can't like this bill. Just listen to the lie that Carolyn Levitt tried to tell to cover that up.
To the CBO estimate that the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion.
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill, and not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic Advisors has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass, and I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen. So we'll see you all later. Thank you. We'll see you in Florida tomorrow.
we will see huge increases to the deficit. There's a thing that Elon claims to care about. We know that's not the case. Why Elon doesn't like this bill is because he's not getting enough money. It's not because of the deficit. Elon doesn't care about the deficit. Let's be real. Elon will be fine no matter what the deficit is. He said, "Oh, it's an existential threat." I'm like, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be okay unless Donald Trump, nationalizes all your companies and bankrupts you and deports you. I would like that. I'd enjoy that. We deserve a treat at the end of this. And I think that's it. So we're going to be praying for that on this show. I really, at this point, don't know what to say. Besides, we're going to be praying for that. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.